Welcome to Melton Industrial Estate, where everything runs on wheels, except the things that don't. I might look familiar to you, but I'm actually Eamon, so you'll hear my name Eamon today. And we're in what we could only call one of the workman's entrances of Melbourne. And I guess you see mostly the workman's entrance of Melbourne. Do you ever feel that you're an invisible person when you're doing your work as a courier?
I try never to be invisible, only in my own inimitable fashion. I like to make myself known. Yeah, this is the outer west of Melbourne, the industrial estates, and yeah, I do get to see a lot of places that most people wouldn't.
Actually, we saw something that was quite charming today. The Forum Gentlemen's Club has reopened, which is a boon for the suburb. It's taken away motor depression. I think it's even better than adding 2 new holes to the golf course.
Well, there is that. I mean, it was a bit of a disappointment a few years ago, and there was a downturn in the economy, and it was pretty sad when even hookers couldn't get laid. But it's nice to see that they're back up and operating again. So
Now, Susan, I've spent a day on the road with you because I was considering being an owner-operator for some time.
yep.
The job is not as easy as I thought. Well, one of the workers at the depot saw me riding shotgun with you and assumed I was going to take over your route. Maybe you were going to sell it to me. Does that ever work? Do people actually sell their route?
No, they're not fixed routes. You're under contract. You're a subcontractor, and you work on a per delivery basis, unless you get a set run, and then you're on an hourly basis. Once you get the hang of it, it's okay, provided that you don't mind the disastrous traffic situation in Melbourne. Yeah, if you don't like traffic, don't bother doing it.
Well, I was asked point blank on the first day, do you like driving your truck? Such an honest question, and I had to reflect and say, no, it's a real chore.
Of course it is.
For you too.
No. Well, I've been doing it for a long time, and you get used to it. And provided you get your head around the fact that there's going to be a lot of traffic, and there is nothing you can do about it, so you just take it as it is, and it always evens out at the end of the month.
Yeah. Now, again, we're in an invisible area in the workman's entrance. Do you ever get a feeling doing 350-kilometre round trip a day that you know Melbourne better than others, that you have a greater feeling as the pulse of Melbourne, or is it just that you're just in your own shell and there's just a chore to do?
More so than even cab drivers think they do. Cab drivers end up always at the front doors of the pretty entrances.
Yeah.
Of places that they deliver passengers to. We go to, like for example, I have regular deliveries to, like for example, a Royal Melbourne Hospital. Now, for people who are probably not familiar with the Royal Melbourne Hospital, they go through reception. And they go and see a pretty young blonde at the reception desk who will direct them into the correct places to go. However, if you have a blood delivery, for example, to the Royal Melbourne Hospital, you have to go to the loading docks, and then you have to go down this ramp and down through the bowels of the Royal Melbourne Hospital to find the specific entrance and the specific floor that you need to go to. And of course, nobody wants to help you because everyone's in a rush making their own deliveries.
I always thought it was a con. I'd see, like I remember around 2000, people would just stencil the word courier on their car. But were they getting a tax advantage doing that? Is that why?
No.
And why would someone put urgent medical deliveries on their car?
For parking.
Okay, that does help.
Parking officers generally, unless they're arseholes, will generally tend to leave you alone because they can spot the sign on the windscreen. Oh, he's only going to be a couple of minutes, but it's obviously urgent medical delivery, so he'll walk by.
I had a mate who was a courier and he worked in airflow distribution, putting on the big air units at IMAX and places like that.
Yep.
And we made a sign up for him and it said urgent air. And we gave it to him as a present. He was very offended. I thought that's more urgent than blood.
Oh, well, there you go.
Now, I hear to be an owner-operator, you can't come in with a clapped-out vehicle. You've got to show that you're serious about it.
Well, it's got to be. Pretty much all the courier companies will insist that your van, usually around a 1 tonne capacity, will be under 5 years old.
Be it
yeah.
diesel or other.
Sorry?
Be it diesel or other.
Oh, but your fuel makes no difference. They say less than 5 years old because it's still reliable and generally still under warranty. So they know that you're not going to start next week. You're going to be off for 2 weeks while you get an engine replaced. But once you are employed and you have got your van, you can then basically run it into the ground.
Yeah. Now, employed is a loose word. You're more a contractor than employed, aren't
Correct.
you? So what happens to physical injuries to yourself? Like, for instance, do you ever get people say, oh, can you put a fitting up top so you can carry large pipes, etc., and then you realise you'd have to be scrambling up on the roof?
Well, that's right. You're basically self-employed. Right. So all the same rules apply as a self-employed person, as someone who owns a shop, as someone who. So you're responsible for your own knock health and safety. You're responsible for your own work cover. You're responsible for paying your own taxes.
So what incentive would they give you to, for instance, put an elongated pipe carrier, conduit carrier on top?
Oh, the fact that you get to carry that load where someone who doesn't have the capability can't carry it. So, you get an extra load where somebody else wouldn't be able to get a load.
Right.
So that's all it is. I personally would never do that. They don't pay me enough. And I'm past the age of really caring.
I rode with you for a day and I stayed in the docking depot with you. I had lunch with you there. And I know that you could keep your engine going with the diesel. I guess you've got some pretty long miles on it now.
Well, it's well over 500,000 Ks on it now, and it's still running like a clock.
Yeah, I had a look. It's like 14 times around the world.
Yeah, you are crazy if you try and do or want to do this job with a petrol-fueled vehicle. It's just madness. And diesel is the way to go.
And it's got to be at least 2 years, yeah. There's no business plan to buy it and then sell it after 8 months or something.
Look, a lot of people will buy the cheapest van they can to do the job, and look, that makes sense if you're stuck for the readies. But if you go for a more premium vehicle to start with, and then if, let's say, 5 years from now, your exit strategy is that, okay, I'm done, I've made me money, I'm leaving the industry, I'm going to sell the van. If you bought a cheap van to start with, you're going to get nothing back for that van. If you bought a premium one, this will always hold its value. So, I bought this in 2016 for $48,000 then, and that was because I got a $5,000 fleet discount. Mm-hmm. So I got a cheap $5,000 cheaper to start with. I will still get 25 for this today. I will still get 25 grand for this vehicle today.
So in your bay, there was all these light vans. You call them a light load van? What
yes.
Do you call it? Yep.
It's a one ton van.
Sure. And going right up to your semi-trailers. So I saw them all. Is there some kind of pecking order where you actually say, oh, he's a real trucker because he's driving, an enormous craft?
Only in ego.
Only in ego.
Yeah. Realistically, and I've driven them all. I've driven concrete trucks. I've driven semis. I've done a lot. There is not that much more pay for driving the huge rigs.
Sure, and I guess the huge rigs too would go interstate.
Yeah, that's right. But look, the only upside to driving a huge rig is that you drive it into the loading dock, and someone else unloads it for you by forklift. Uh-huh. And that's it. Other than that, for being in charge of such a huge vehicle with such huge tonnage, which you have to account for in traffic while braking and people pulling out in front of you and stuff like that, the incentive isn't there to drive a big rig.
Okay, but going at the other end, the micro end, these delivery drivers who are really just doing gigs, would you actually consider them as professional drivers?
You mean the people food delivery,
Yeah,
bike drivers,
Yeah.
no, I would not consider them professional drivers.
Okay. So we can see where the esprit is.
Yeah.
And I guess people take this on and say, "This, I'm going to do this right until the bitter end. This is my small business. I bought myself a job."
No, that's pretty much what it is.
Yeah.
I bought myself a job. There are tax benefits to being your own business, provided you set it up right to start with. So, I mean, you'd see an accountant about that. If you're paying off your van, in other words, you bought it on hire purchase, there's also tax benefits to that as well, because you're writing it off. But if there's a shortage of work, you're not guaranteed an income, unlike someone who's employed.
Can you leave us with one good moment that you've had on the road?
What? Is there such a thing? Every payday.
Thanks so much, Zeus.
Not a problem. We'll talk to you again shortly.